and like, it just goes back to being an athlete. So you're not going to win every game. You can't, no matter what. No, sometimes it doesn't matter how, if you did everything right, you still lose. You just have to accept that and move on. But that mentally, that trade, and that's why we talked about it. And I printed the chart out and I had it right next to my desk, you know, because I just didn't want to forget. And it just said, don't get greedy on with like big red marker. But then that turned into me constantly selling way too early because I just had it burned in my brain, you know, just to not get greedy, because that was just, I'm okay when I lose, when I followed my trade plan and I stuck to my risk. But that one, I think mentally just hurt.
Welcome back to the Steady Trade podcast. As Stephen, you know, we had a little bit of banter in the beginning. You know, we don't even get 30 seconds in, and already Stephen's trying to convert Victoria into shorting first green days. You know, it's like, I mean, you know, I've said it a million times on the podcast. I love Stephen, but I don't like him. And he's like my sleazy brother that every time I bring him around a girl, it's like, would you knock it off? 30 seconds in, and it's like, oh, we'll start short in first green days.
He's not hitting on her though, so that we're ahead.
Oh yeah, we're only 1 minute into the podcast. Give him time, Kim. Give him time. So that being said, everyone, welcome back to the Steady Trade podcast. We've got the whole team here. We got Kim, we got Stephen, and then we've got a guest. Victoria goes by Crown in the Steady Trade chat, and it's kind of a neat thing. You know, we've had a lot of upcoming trader. You know, geez, we've had everything from, you know, a couple months ago, we had some very, very new traders. We've had Jim Rogers, about as OG as they get, with 40 plus, hell, probably 50 years going on for Jim. And so we're kind of trying to bring the gamut. And we've got Crown, AKA Victoria here, a Steady Trade Team member, coming up on a year, and just kind of going to talk about, you know, that general experience of getting started in trading, where she's at. Maybe we'll talk about what we do in the Steady Trade Team. Obviously, Stephen and I mention a lot on the podcast. Kim does too. So welcome, Victoria. Maybe just
thank you.
Kind of start out with a little bit of, you know, I always go with that like Marvel movie origin story, you know. Give us a little background. You know, what brought you to trading? What, you know, kind of what you got started, and where you've been kind of up until where we are today, maybe. So,
well, I played volleyball at University of Hawaii, and then moved to LA to play professionally. And that's kind of ties into how I got started trading, because after I was done with volleyball, I took a job at Fox Sports, but I had like a 3-week break, and I had never in my life taken a trip that didn't involve volleyball, like never just anything for fun. And I was 24 at the time. So I was like, I'm just going to go to the Bahamas for a couple of weeks and relax and, you know, drink as much as I want and kind of do whatever I want without having to be on a set schedule every day. And I met this couple at the blackjack table, and he was a day trader. And up until this time, I hadn't really even considered it or thought about it. You know, I kind of had my life strategically planned out. And up until that point, everything had kind of gone the way I had planned it to. But then, and he was very well off. I mean, and obviously he could have been blowing smoke. He could have been a Colombian drug lord for all I know, honestly. I don't know. I didn't like see his operation or anything, but he just said him and his wife, you know, he trades and they travel everywhere and he can work from anywhere. And I was like, man, that just sounds amazing, you know? So then I went to Fox, and then
now just not to break your flow.
No, you're fine.
Timeline. Where are we? This, like, roughly?
Oh, so I was 24 when I met that guy, and then I stayed at Fox Sports for a few years. I did the on-air promo. What year?
I was just kind of getting a context.
This was like 2007, 2008.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering. Okay,
yeah. So it was a while ago, and so then I stayed at Fox Sports for a while, and then I have 2 little girls. So I had my first baby, and I started studying and reading books at first, you know, and I even subscribed to StocksToTrade, but I didn't even have a brokerage account. So I know that's kind of backwards. But what I would do is at night, you know, I would just kind of get on there and I would look at the top percent gainers and how much they ran and why they ran. And I would look at the news and just kind of started to understand like why things moved, you know, and I started tracking things on spreadsheets. And then I joined Pennystocking Silver, which was awesome. And I watched all the video lessons from Sykes and I did all that. And then when I first started trading, I was kind of strictly just doing OTCs because that's a lot. Not that Sykes is just OTCs, but it's pretty, I would say 90% OTC dominant, you know? And so I got really comfortable with that. And then I really wanted to start venturing into the listed world. And it was like my kids got older, so I had more time to study and really focus. And then since I was already on StocksToTrade, I had obviously been hearing about STT Pro and all that. So then I was like, okay, now it's time. And things just obviously in 2020 got absolutely crazy and took off. And I just really needed to kind of start understanding more the why. I had already gotten over PDT on my, not on my own, I won't say on my own, because I was on Pennystocking Silver and all that, you know, but I just knew that there was so much more I could be learning and understanding and doing, you know. So joining the SteadyTrade Team was just the best thing that I could have done, honestly. I love it. It is, I mean, I actually like, I know people joke and say that they go to sleep thinking about stock charts and stuff, but I really do. Like, I don't know. I love it. It is so great. And I love it. I'm on the West Coast, so I get up early, but I'm an athlete. So I've had to be on the beach at 5 a.m. every day ready for practice. So I prefer to start really early in the morning. That's my jam. And then I'm done at 1, you know, and then I make sure that I journal my trades and update my spreadsheets. And then I got the rest of the day with my kids, and it's amazing.
What is it you love, Victoria? Like, give us a couple of specifics. What does it provide you?
So I think about this a lot, you know, so being an athlete, it's kind of like whatever you put into it is what you get out of it, right? Like it's not going to be given to you because of who your dad is or who you know, it's like you're either good or you're not. And the more that you put into it, the harder you practice, the harder you train, the harder you study your opponents watching film, the more prepared you are, the better the outcome, right? And that's the same thing with trading. It's your own discipline. And you kind of decide, I mean, obviously you could have a perfect setup that doesn't work, and you just have to accept the fact that that's going to happen, you know, and that's out of your control. You just stick to your stop and then move on. But I just love it that I know that what I put into it and how hard I work, then that's what I'm going to get out of it. And the results are going to show in the work that I put in. I hear so many people say, especially in 2020, new traders really kind of got super tricked into thinking that this was an easy game. And I don't mean to say game because it's not a game, but it's definitely not easy. And I know a lot of new people that were pretty successful in 2020 that have already had a really rough start to 2021 because everything goes up. You know what I mean? Like, that's just pretty much what the gist was in 2020. And it worked out for the most part for people that weren't prepared, but the market's constantly changing and you have to adapt to it. And people, you know, isn't it kind of funny to you guys that people say it's slow right now? Because it's not slow. It's still really fast.
I tell you, you know, so a couple of things. Number one, I'll comment on that point. So I'm like, you know, and again, I love like, you know, they're my boys, Bryce, Matt, Kyle, Jack, you know, and you know, like the other day, Bryce too, he's like, you know, and he's just crushing it. And he's like, oh, market's crashing, nothing. And I'm like, God, come on, man. So anyway, I agree. But man, second thing I want to comment before you move on, that what you said about that whole get out what you get in or put in. I mean, if I had to pick one reason that I was like, you know, most people, listeners probably know my bio. I had the business, things were going well, but it's just like, especially once you get a mature business, it's like you can't really make things move. And it's like I could work harder, but then I got to depend on 20 people. I got to hope that the customer ultimately signs the purchase order. And you know, with trading, I was like, I'm getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. every day, and I just start seeing the harder I work, you know, just like athletics, it's like the more comes back. And that's where I was just like, you know, and then, you know, I go to the office and, you know, and it's like, you sit there with the rubber stamp and you punch the stamp and making good money. And the business is still doing well today, but I'm just like, man, the fire's not there. And
that was my issue at Fox. Like, I majored in journalism and my dream was to be, you know, the head girl on ESPN that was on the football field, talking about all the games. But then, and it was amazing. And I had so many awesome trips that I took to do promos for the NFL and the NBA and stuff. But at the same time, I didn't really have control over it. And I mean, obviously, like, you still work hard and you can move up, but it was just, I don't know. It just kind of died. And I was like, I was going through the motions, and I love it because even though obviously when I wake up, I'm still going to my same desk and I'm, launching up the computers and the monitors, but it's like, at the same time, every trading day is different. You're never going to have, just like a game of golf, no game of golf you play is ever going to be the exact same as the last one. And no trade that you make will ever be the exact same as the last one. It's all different, and it's different movers every day. And it's so fun. I mean, it really is.
Walk us through a day. What does a day look like for you? What time do you wake up? How do you navigate the kids?
Oh, see, I was on a roll in 2020 until the schools closed. That really threw me, man. Oh gosh. When I look at like my profits and stuff, sometimes I think of what could have been, but at the same time, I have to be thankful for the opportunities that 2020 presented anyway. So I don't mean to complain about it. And I know a lot of people had a rough year, but I get up at about 4 just because I just like to be awake. Obviously, I can't roll out at 6 o'clock for the market to open at 6:30 because I need to be completely wide awake, ready to go. I always say good morning in chat, but then I just review everything from yesterday to see if anything that I was watching yesterday is still a possible play today. And then if it's absolutely not, I just, cross it off and move on. And then I look obviously at everything moving today and just start building my watch list and getting all my charts set up, where I want them so that I can see everything. I traded from just one laptop for a while, and it got really hard in 2020 to do that. So then I upgraded, and it's been the best thing ever because now I can actually keep everything on my watch list up so I can see it moving. It is nice now though that I don't have like 30 alarms going off every 5 minutes, and I had to stop setting alerts.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it got unbelievable. I'd be trying to like get in a trade, and then all my alarms start going off, and I'm trying to like click off of all of them, and then I miss my entry, and I'm like, what? It really got bananas sometimes, but it was fun, it was so fun.
So you get your watch list, and just walk us through not just your trading, but like when you plug into the room, how you handle the kids in the morning, like when's your hours to be able to give the market your focus?
Oh yeah. So I got to get my kids. So I'm, like I said, West Coast time. So I get my kids up at between 7 and 7:15. I'm not going to lie. They're really late sometimes. If I see something really setting up and I just can't walk away, then they're late to school. But their teachers have been pretty understanding. They start at about 8:15, but I get them up between 7 and 7:15 so they can, eat their breakfast and get ready to go. And then I have to work out every day. It's like my therapy, if I don't, I've just become worse at everything for some reason. I have to do it. So my workout time is like between 8:30 and 9:30, and then shower real quick. And I make sure that I'm back at my computer by 10. And my favorite time of trading is between 2 and 4. So I take that time between 10 and 1 to really focus on what I'm watching for the afternoon. And a lot of times I won't take that 1 p.m. play because it's often a fake out. Sometimes it works. And then I'm like, well, you just have to accept the fact that you're going to miss things sometimes. If it's not your bread and butter, then that's okay. It just happens. But if something is setting up and I know it's going to go in that 2 to 4 p.m., well, I shouldn't say I know it's going to go, but you get that feeling, you see it, and she looks beautiful. And sometimes she just works out exactly how you wanted her to.
And do you find that this is what you do 5 days a week? You're doing it, it's almost full time, I would say. Is this the one place that do you rely on this for like your revenue?
Yes. Well, I coach high school volleyball as well, but I do that just because I love helping the kids and I love coaching. So that's my main revenue is definitely from trading, because I've been doing it full time for about 2 years. The first couple of years was just getting acclimated. And then I finally realized that if I want to be successful at this, it's something I need to focus on every single day. And luckily I'm pretty low key. I'm not very high maintenance. So like the money I had from sponsorships from volleyball and, at Fox, I saved up a pretty good amount. So I was able to allow myself time to learn without being concerned and make sure that I was still able to take care of my kids, you know, and they're still young. So I'm just hoping that by the time they're, you know, 16, they need their car, they need, you know, then my plan is to be, you know, Jack Kellogg status. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, just, I try not to look at numbers or set goals or anything like that, because it really messes with me. I just kind of am one trade at a time, and I don't have like a profit goal every day, or like, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I know it really works for other people, and I see everybody else's gains and it's awesome. It's just, I've never really focused on that. I'm just like one trade at a time, 1 week at a time, you know, 1 month at a time. It all adds up over time.
You know, another great thing that I think you did awesome is, again, having that, you know, that buffer or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's why I beg people, you know, it's like, you know, people ask, you know, like, when do I quit my job? And I think I saw,
yeah.
I think somebody else said this, maybe Roland said it, something similar, was like, you know, basically don't make them fire you. You know, I think Roland, I don't want to falsely attribute it, but I think Roland might have said that. Like, just, you know, keep that, you know, keep the paycheck, keep the benefit.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about this all the time. I mean, hey, the market don't give you health insurance, okay? And then, so, and again, I think it was Roland, and because I'm gonna steal it all the time. Let them fire your ass, you know, let the boss walk in and be like, you're day trading again, get the hell out of here, you know, but keep that job as long as you can, you know, because it's so hard. And by putting that, I mean, it's like gasoline on, it's hard enough, but if you're like, you know, and I've told these stories, and we've had guests that have talked about it too, where it's like, you know, you look at that checking account every day, and, you know, the mortgage goes out and the car payment goes out, and maybe you have a bad day, and now you get, and it's like, man, so if you can have that nest egg, or again, keep that day job, please do it. Make them fire you.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most important advice to new traders?
I would just say, just start small. Don't, you know, because I have a couple friends that were really looking into it, and one of them is fortunate enough that, you know, she's kind of like our little trust fund baby. We like to make fun of her, but I think the best thing when you start out is to start with a small account, even if you have the funds to immediately jump up to 25,000 and be over PDT. I think that's a huge mistake. There's actually a guy on the team that I'm trying to work with right now on sizing down, because he does have a pretty large account, but he's just not there yet in his trading journey. And so when he loses, he's losing quite a bit of money, and he's also struggling to stick to his stops, which definitely means you need to size down if you're not, you know, if you can't stick to your stops. And so I just think with new traders, they don't want to, you know, just start small and just take it one day at a time. Take a $50 position, $100 position, $200 position, you know, and just get a feel for it. You know, when I started really small, and it was funny because as soon as I bought, I sold. I was in and out. I just like click. I was just kind of, you know, it really takes a while to get comfortable, get used to it, get a feel for it. And so I think when you're starting out, just obviously study as much as you can, but just start small. Even if you can start big, don't, just start small. And then you slowly size up over time if your profit chart is telling you to, you know, your win percentage. Don't size up if you're losing every trade.
I would just add to that. I think the more you have to trade, the more opportunity you have to be less disciplined.
Exactly. And you can get bailed out. I mean, again, you know,
and you do get bailed out.
You know, we joke all, I mean, listen, Stephen, I joke about that whole making bank bros with, like, you know, mommy and daddy money. I mean, if you can just ride it out, you know, if you got a big enough account, you can just ride it out, and all of a sudden, you know, but that's not that only, and Steve and I say it all the time. It works until it doesn't. Yep.
Just like 2020 with everything going up and people thinking, hey, this is easy. I could trade forever. I'm gonna quit my job.
You're in a DRYs, a BPTH, you know, a SPI, you know, or so
a VVPR, a downside halt.
I'm just curious, just to reiterate the final point, nothing nothing increases discipline like a small account. Nothing improves discipline like a small account. Nothing. And I had to do that. I was notoriously famous for having terrible discipline. I had a $500 account.
I saw you tied to the chair. I saw that video.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
That's my Twitter profile probably forever, that and the horse. But what I was curious about is, what was the first thing that clicked for you? What was the first pattern where you thought, this pattern makes sense, and I get why it works?
Yeah, well, actually my most successful pattern when I started was the OTC panic dip buy. For some reason, I really struggled on the morning spikes on the OTCs. I either would sell just way too early or way too late, but the panics, I got quicker than anything else. I could see the turn on level 2 pretty easily, and so that was the first pattern that I really got successful at. And so that was the first pattern that I started sizing up into, just because it made a lot of sense to me. And then the afternoon OTC breakout, I watched Trading Tickers 1, and Grittani really broke that pattern down. And so I really took that. But basically in the start, honestly, it was just OTC panic dip highs and OTC afternoon breakouts. Those were kind of like the only 2 patterns in my arsenal that worked. I tried other ones, they didn't work.
And what about listed? What are you playing listed now?
Oh yeah, so now listed, I love the afternoon. I love the dip and rips. I love those, but I do, things change in the market. That's what people have to understand. So you really this morning, OCGN is a perfect example. I alerted in chat and I was like, this break of 14 is probably gonna drop hard. And I really tried to help, but I know a lot of people took it and then they got kind of slammed because it dropped down like under 13 pretty quickly. But if you look back at the chart, it really told you that was coming, it really struggled at 14 for a while, and it's not a low floater. So it's not like it's going to really have a lot of power to push through, but I love dip and rips. And then the afternoon VWAP hold high at daybreak. The reversal long is another listed pattern that I love. And I started working on that a few months ago, but then in Trading Tickers 2, Grittani really went over it. And so now I've been pretty successful on that since learning that pattern. I would say those 3 are my favorites for listed. And then I still, obviously, the OTC panic dip buys, I still do those. And then the afternoon breakouts, even though I made a huge mistake yesterday on WSGF and looking at it at 64 right now when I stopped out at 35 yesterday's still really hard. I just need to take it off my watch list because it's making me mad. I literally sold at the bottom and then it turned and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, but again,
did that wrong.
I mean, again, but the solace, it's like, again, we went over it in chat this morning. I mean, that thing's sketchy as hell, it's like,
it is. Yeah.
I mean, this has been one of my quotes for years, is like, if you play the coulda, woulda, shoulda game in trading, you will go batshit crazy, And when you're in World Series of golf yesterday afternoon and it starts yanking, you gotta take that stop. And yes, it hurts today because it looks like right now it's probably going to be a gapper again. But man,
and it has a history of failing to gap up the next day too. So that's why even when it came back yesterday afternoon, I didn't take it. And then I felt extra good about it because Kyle Williams said that he's not taking it because it fails to follow up and gap up the next day. So I was like, oh, cool. So he just confirmed what I was thinking, golden. And then I woke up today and it's just boom. I was like, wow. It's hard when those OTCs double from where you got out of because your position sizes are so large. It's like you're just kind of saying goodbye to a really nice profit.
How often do you put time into watching videos and still educating yourself? Like, it sounds like it's a consistent part of your experience. Doesn't feel like you've learned it and you're done. Just like, how many hours a month do you spend on getting better?
So I make sure that as soon as when the market closes, I don't trade that much in after hours unless there's something that really looks like it's setting up. I don't stay and look for something if I'm still watching it from late day. But so as soon as it closes, I make sure that I update my journals. I do my losing journal every day. Like if I have a bad trade that day, I make sure that's the first thing that I do. And I look at that really close and I save the chart. I have really gotten not very great at my spreadsheets lately. It's just been, and like I said, I'm not complaining about the schools being closed or anything. It is what it is, but it's just, it lessens my time to work on my spreadsheets because I have to work on the homework with my kids. I want to make sure they're not falling behind. I have a 6-year-old. She can't exactly read the directions very well all the time. And I have to make sure, I just want to make sure that what, they were on in Zoom, they understand, because it's obviously, if I was 6, I'd be checking out from that every day. That would just be so hard to do. So normally I would spend a couple hours after the market closed working on that, because then I wouldn't have to pick my kids up from school because they have their after school stuff they do. So I would have at least a couple hours. So that time has gotten less, but I would say every day, at least I set aside an hour to an hour and a half, whether that's for an hour after the close and then an hour before bed. But I'm always looking at new things, watching the video lessons. If someone puts out a YouTube video of, some new pattern, I always watch it. I just think there's so many good traders, and you should never get set in your ways as a trader. Obviously you need to stay disciplined. That's so important, but you need to stay open to learning from other successful traders constantly. Like no matter how good you are, there's always somebody that's better at a certain pattern than you. And you can always learn from that person, especially with the market, the way it always is constantly changing. You can't just get set in this way. And this is the only way I trade, and I won't trade any other way. I think that's a big mistake that people make in thinking, like Tim always says, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So you just have to stay open-minded to, if your pattern could still maybe stay that pattern, but it might just shift a little bit. Maybe your entry needs to be a little sooner, or maybe, you need to start recognizing these breakout fails. So it needs to be more of an in and out instead of always trying to hit your goals. I do hear a lot of new traders get kind of fascinated with the 3-to-1 risk to reward, which obviously that's a good way to make your trade plan. But you have to be open to the fact that if you're up 50 cents a share, you don't need to let it drop down to your stop. You already had a 50 cent a share. So just paying attention to the price action and the chart. Is it making higher lows? What's it doing? You really have to pay attention to that and not get stuck in your ways where it's like, I'm either 3-to-1 or I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people do that. I hear that a lot in the chat.
So Stephen, I can tell you're going to ask. I'm Mr. King of butting in, but Kim, I wanted to make a point. I want to answer your question on behalf of Crown. Okay. I can tell you this: when it comes, I don't even need to see her name in chat. I might not even be looking in chat.
Right.
I ask her questions because I know she's there. Okay. Every single day, every single webinar, even if I don't see her typing, I'll ask her something because I know there's a handful of people that are there every single webinar. So I can answer, her answer much more eloquent than mine, but I just know I can be like, hey, like yesterday was a great example. I had a couple meetings yesterday afternoon, and someone was like, hey, Tim, was there any solid VWAP afternoon? And I'm like, listen, I wasn't running scans at 2 p.m. So I basically asked Crown, and she's like, no, there weren't. I'm like, perfect. I knew she was there because I knew she was there,
Totally.
So.
I actually did a bad job of answering your question, Kim. I'm sorry. You asked me how many hours a week. I would say at least 10 hours during the weekday. But I love Saturday mornings because I wake up, I ride the bike, and then I put on a movie for my kids or give them their phone time, and then I just study on Saturday. I review everything and every trade and just look really closely out, especially the ones I lose. Like, what did I miss? And sometimes I didn't miss anything, but a lot of times it just really helps just to look at the different time frames.
I was actually
that was the last point I wanted, because I think that gets overlooked. I love that she has a loser's journal. And again, this is something that I haven't talked about much lately, but if you watch my old videos, I'll talk about that, man. I used to just, especially getting started, man, people focus on winners too much. To me, it's like just like in athletics, like this will date me. Back when I used to watch the dreadful Lions, Barry Sanders, when Barry Sanders scored a touchdown, he gave the football to the ref and he went to the sideline. He did his job. He's there to score touchdowns. And what I think so many people fixate on, they fixate on the winners. I made this, I did this, I did this. I think you should obsess on the losers and figure
100%
out what you did wrong, why, and what can I do to not do that again? So I love the losers.
Oh yeah, when I was in college, if we lost a game and I didn't play well, I would be in the film room the next morning, first thing, watching the game. Every mistake that I made, I'd rewind it, watch it again, see where I went wrong, where was open, what should I have done. Same thing with trading. Reviewing your losers is so much more important than just staring at your winners, even though it feels good.
And just to add to that, I think, and it comes from a book that I got called The Slight Edge. It's so important that when you're doing well, that you still look at what you're doing bad. You don't look at what's wrong when something goes wrong. You look at what's wrong all the time.
Well said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I've always done. I've always thought, what am I doing wrong? Even when I'm doing really well. And that's the only way, because if you get sloppy with your success, the success starts to fade without you knowing. And you go back to average.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Because even on my winning trades, I'm like notorious for selling too early. I mean, it's like a running joke in the chat room. Everybody buys when I sell because it's like a guaranteed win.
Everyone also buys when I short sell. So it's
But I review that all the time, because even though I won, sometimes I think of it as a loser, because I was like, gosh, like why couldn't I have just let it keep going? You know, I mean, it's still a winning trade, but like you said, there's something you could always have done better.
Yeah, but the best thing that I've ever done is I don't just save the charts, but I save the charts and then I categorize every chart into a subsection. So, okay, these are first red days. These are gap and craps. These are not just longs, but these are multi-month breakout longs. And these are multi-month breakout longs that washed at the open and then started making higher lows and broke VWAP. Yeah. And if you have 20 charts the same way, then you can really micro-analyze how far do these go? What are the signs that they break down before the breakdown? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, again, I've told that story. I mean, I know I'm old school, but I had binders for each chart pattern. I would print them, and then Saturday mornings was kind of my time too. I'd sit there and I'd just like flip through almost like, again, Crown's talking about teaching her young, almost like a flashcards type situation where I'm just like, and I talk about looking at charts till your eyes bleed. I'd just be like, how can I find this one next week type thing. So
yeah. I have a question for you, Stephen. Because I've been working on, well, it's not a new pattern. I know people have always done it, but it's something that's newer for me. On the morning runners that go up pretty big in pre-market and then just start trending under VWAP for the rest of the day. I kind of mark that high a day when at the open, and then I keep watching it. I keep it on watch just to make sure if it breaks that high a day, I want to catch those shorts getting out. It actually worked out really well on Monday with APEN, Tim's favorite. APEN, Tim's favorite ticker. He loves those obesity plays.
Yeah.
But that actually worked out really
all
well.
In, baby. Max BP
out.
Short, baby.
Yep. And then FRSX did it as well on Monday. When it broke that high a day, the shorts were exiting their positions, and I grabbed some of that move. When you do get in short, like after a morning runner really starts downtrending, is that where you set your exit for the high a day after the open?
Yeah, honestly, I'm before that, because I know that everyone else is exiting probably on the high of the day. For me, if a stock doesn't break down properly, like if it's not like dead, fully broke down and done, there's no hope of it coming back by 10, 30, 11. I'm out. Like anything holding even within a few percent of VWAP, I'm out.
You're out.
Anything that is hanging around, slight higher lows, there's no way I'm in that. I mean, it's a 50-50, it's going to squeeze.
Yeah. See, that's because so many people I know that, because I'm dominant long, but I'm obviously studying shorting all the time. But I think so many people that just go long, they're like, I don't need to know anything about short selling because I don't do that. But I totally disagree with that. I think it's so important to understand the mind of a short seller, because it can really help your trades on the long side if you understand where their exits are going to be and why they got in. And because I mean, those move, they can really move when those shorts start getting out of their positions. And if you catch that move, it's like FRSX, I got like 75 cents of it. And then it proceeded to go up $3 from there. And everybody else really banked on it. That was another like, thanks, Crown. Thanks for selling. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
But
one of my golden rules as a short seller is something that I got told from Dan Irish, and that was consolidation's bullish. Never think of consolidation as bearish. Think of it as bullish.
Well said.
So if anything consolidates, if anything doesn't break down in the morning, I just see it as bullish. And if it's bullish, I'm not in it.
Especially post 2016. That's that one thing. Like, and I love that quote by Dan. I'll probably steal that as well. So it's funny, you know, how things change. And again, all the gray hair and the bald spot. You know, back in the day, opposite. We thought of, you know, I'm talking 2007 to 2012, that consolidation was bearish because you knew the exact opposite was probably coming, because you knew everyone was just giving up, because we had high certainty that the longer this went sideways, the more likely people were to give up. Post 2016, everybody's like, it's hanging around, you know, and everybody's just like, it's just interesting how things shift. And how that changed. I love that quote because now.
Here's a question for all of you. Is there anything else similar to consolidation today is bullish and it used to mean it was bearish? Are there anything bullet points just like that you could say are different today than they used to be?
Everything's different today than it used to be.
Well said. It's just, I mean, well said by Crown Victoria. I mean, it's just, and listen, and I know it's funny how, I rant about this all the time. You know, we had like one red day and now everybody's like talking market crash and stuff. But, you know, meanwhile, I was reading this article, you know, people have saved up like 2.9 trillion. We got stimulus checks coming. I mean, it ain't ending anytime soon. So, it's just, I think, you know, and again, Kim, we've done podcasts about this. I just think it's going to be like this for a while. And when it ends, it's probably going to be really bad. But it's like, you know, it's like when the party's going, enjoy the party. I mean, you know, so I don't know.
You dance.
Yeah, you know, but yes, there's, I mean, there's times, and I know this was, you were asking the other two, but it's like there's times where I tell stories about the olden days, and I almost like, was it really like that?
Right. You know, it starts to doubt your memory.
Did we really wait 3 days for a 20% gapper? And it happened. There's times I wonder, but I'm like, God damn it, it happened. You would sit there all day and nothing would happen. Nothing.
No.
All day.
But I definitely remember when I started 4 years ago, to see something go past 100% on the day was a big deal. Like something breaking 100%, like 134%, 140.
Everybody's like, holy
like
shit.
It can't go higher. Like the old saying of it can't go higher, it was kind of true because it didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't. Like when someone went 230% one day, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I didn't think that could happen. Now shit's going 1,000%.
It's just bananas. Well, because I remember that there would be a lot, like sometimes I would go days without placing a trade. But right now, I can't remember the last time where I was actually engaged all day that I didn't take the day off, that I didn't trade, because there's just crazy amounts of opportunities. Even right now, when everyone says everything is so slow, it's not at all. It's still like double where it used to be.
You've got 4 trades. You just don't have 16.
Exactly. Well, and it got so bad in 2020 that I had to start limiting the amount of positions I would be in at the same time. I got out of control a couple of times. I really had to check myself and then make sure, you know, if it's a swing trade that's a slower mover, obviously I don't really count that. But sometimes I would be in 5 trades at once that were all movers, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I always sold the wrong ones too.
Yep.
Always
that's
sold the wrong
the bad part. The more you're in, you invariably screw them all up. Yeah.
Did you short GME, Steven?
I may have shorted GME, but not on the initial run up. It was like a trend break pre-market. I think I took like $600-700 on. Like when I knew it was overextended, I've got a really good short when something's really overextended and it's coming into resistance. I literally just wait for the bullish trend into to break, short it, and risk off that trend line, because I know once the trend breaks, all the longs are getting out.
Yeah.
Even if it's a 5% move, it double bottoms, recovers, and pushes. So I think I took 600-700 on a trend break short pre-market, and that was it. But no, I'm not.
You're not diamond hands.
I'm scared of that thing, man. I don't like that.
But JME, I remember taking short as well, but it's like it's really overextended. I'm like, I see a double top, I short the lower high risk and the high of the day.
Well, it's just scary because you never know when the Wall Street bets guys are just gonna take that thing off.
Look at RKT yesterday. It's like it is all just this nice, steadily trending earnings winner, and all of a sudden it doubles in an hour.
I did not take that 24 break because I was doing something, working on a project with my daughter at the time. But even if I had, I know I wouldn't have stayed in until 40. There's no way I would have still been.
Probably would have sold at 25, and as it went to 45,
that's me for sure. Yeah, maybe 27 tops. But that's as far as I'm pushing it.
So Victoria, I'm always curious about the kind of emotional side of a trader. So what do you find are the places that you bump into for yourself? You and I have done some coaching in the trading room. That was quite right at the beginning of the pandemic, right? Not that far into the pandemic.
That was I got rocked on VVPR, but it was 100% my fault. It had already hit my goals, and I got greedy, which is extremely unlike me. My discipline is usually pretty on point. And then I got stuck in that downside halt, and I ended up losing like $4 a share, and it's still my biggest loss ever. And it took me, it just goes back to being an athlete too. You're not going to win every game. You can't, no matter what. No, sometimes it doesn't matter if you did everything right, you still lose. You just have to accept that and move on. But that mentally, that trade, and that's why we talked about it. And I printed the chart out and I had it right next to my desk, because I just didn't want to forget. And it just said, don't get greedy with like big red marker. But then that turned into me constantly selling way too early because I just had it burned in my brain, just to not get greedy, because I was just, I'm okay when I lose, when I followed my trade plan and I stuck to my risk. But that one, I think mentally just hurt more than any of the other ones, because I knew it was my fault and it was my lack of discipline, and I let it go. It went past my goal and I got greedy. And so I was just more disappointed in myself. Oh my gosh. Whoa, we got massive rain coming down. I'm sorry. It never rains like that down here, but it's crazy. But yeah, so mentally that took me a while to get over. And then that's why I talked to you about it a couple of times, because it's like, I had to just get over it. But it hurts more when you don't follow your rules. Because just because you lose a trade doesn't mean you broke any of your rules. A lot of people feel that way, but that's not what it means. If you stick to your risk, then it's still a good trade, even if you lost, But with that just rocked me, because like I said, I broke every rule, and then I got rocked in that downside halt, and I hate that damn thing. I look at VVP, but I don't want anything to do with it.
And I'll always remember my biggest loss in FAZ, triple leverage financial ETF. But I say cherish that, man. Listen, I always say your biggest loss, we try to keep it PG, but cherish your biggest fuck up, because I'm not doing that again. I am not doing that again. I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose over and over and again, but I'm not doing that again. So I say never forget it, value it,
I definitely say that to adding to losers, but then I still do it. I don't know why. It's gotta come down.
It's so much fun.
So I just love pain.
Because then when you add to a loser though, and you end up making it a winner, you're like, yeah, see, I knew that was gonna happen.
Honestly, but you don't just make them winners; they often become some of your biggest winners as well.
Yes, exactly.
Because you've got extra size and you've kind of top tick, bottom tick, whether you're long or short. It's a terrible habit. I mean, I'll look at a lot of me profit and loss, and I'll have big green day, big green day, big green day, even bigger red day, but then a decent green day. And I'm like, I could have just had 5 quite good green days without having to have the extremes, and I don't risk blowing my account up. Do you know what I mean? But it's the ego of turning something wrong and making it right.
Well, it's like the thrill in it too, you know, like it's just, maybe you're like a thrill seeker, adrenaline junkie, and you love it.
No, but it's good until your account nearly blows up and reality kicks in. Like it's all fun and games until someone gets hit. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's so many traders that struggle with that, because I hear Gritani talk about that all the time. He would constantly be adding outside of his risk level and all that stuff, you know, and even like you said, they do that.
But go on. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say it was, you know, like you said, sometimes those turn into some of your biggest winners, and so it just like justifies that point, and it's like it's just
not true. It's not true. But like, say for example, the day I can make $500 and I'm like almost disappointed because I'm bored and there's no excitement. But maybe bored and not excitement is the way to go, because once you've got a safe strategy and then you add some zeros and you size it up, it's a lot of money that you can make in a safe way. It's just about having the process down first.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, hey, Crown, you know, I really appreciate this. I tell you, you know, the biggest thing that, you know, I really appreciate is your disciplined approach. And, you know, it's interesting how much you can see how athletics and training have transferred to your trading. I mean, it's like, I was thinking about like a title of this podcast, and it's like, man, you know, just having that approach, you know, having that grind it out. The more I put in, the more I get out of it type of approach. And, you know, and that competitive nature too, and competitive nature against yourself ultimately.
Yeah, because that's my biggest thing. I'm constantly competing with myself to get better and be better and do better. I'm kind of addicted to it. And I used to think it was bad, but it's who I am. It's like how I'm wired, and I have to be that way.
Yeah. It's inspiring, Victoria.
It is. I tell you, this was an awesome podcast. I feel like I got to put some more work back in now, man.
What do you
Meanwhile, Steven's sleeping till noon, right? What time do you get up, Steven?
I'm up at about 7, but yeah. I mean, honestly, look, I was very, very disciplined at doing like 2 to 3. I would do 2 to 3 hours study every morning, and then I'd trade the markets like 5-6 hours, then an hour recap in the evening, just like saving charts and whatever. So I would definitely be putting 12, 13, 14-hour days in. But since moving house, like for sure, I've got sloppy. That 3 hours in the morning is now 1 hour. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the same thing with me with the kids. That's why I fell behind on so much, because it's just been more difficult.
I will say this.
I will say this
as the old guy, cherish that time, man. And I can tell you do. I can tell you do.
I know.
But I got a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, and man, I miss my babies some days, you know. And
I know.
You know, the homework and picking them up and all that, you know, and again, I'm not saying you do that, but that time goes fast, man. All of a sudden they're adults, you know.
I know.
Cherish that.
It's crazy.
I greatly respect your work ethic, but damn it, if they, you know, spend that time too. I mean, you listen, you're young. You hear me say this, you got 80 years of trading ahead of you, you know. 10 years from now, that 6-year-old's going to be 16, you know, and
I know.
You can't, you know, so yeah.
If you could just turn back time.
I got a
and
picture.
knew if you could turn back time and know that GME was going to 400.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's funny. That's great. That's great.
Well, yeah. We'll take this home, man. Crown, I really appreciate your openness and man, again, inspiring. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the shirt. Yeah. You know, and again,
they're so great. I got
no beef with that.
I got no beef with that.
Yeah, you know,
even has the intonation perfect.
Yeah.
Intonation is where those things come alive. Those quotes.
And you know, and I think Stephen will mirror this too. I mean, very, very inspired by this podcast, man. It got me fired up again to double down on the discipline, and I would just doubly like to thank you again as a we call it the Steady Trade Team, and it's a small group, and I know that, again, I know you're there. I know I lean on you for stuff. I know you've put in the time. I know the seat time. I know you've grind, and it's awesome. Just like Steven, it's Steven is a teammate in there as well. I'm like, hey, this morning we were looking for a biotech to short, and he was in TRXC, and I was like, hey, great setup. It's just so cool, the community we have, especially because of people like you and Steven as well. We just got to get Kim to get up at 3 a.m. Hawaii time and get in there. So
it's funny.
Go to bed earlier. Just go to bed earlier. It's easy.
When there's like a new person that comes in the chat room and they're asking questions about stuff, I get all excited. I'm like, oh, it's a new person. I can help them learn and get better. So I like message them. I'm like, let me know if you need any help or you have any questions. I think it's because I'm a coach too and a mom, I guess. So
I can't remember. I think
I get excited.
Is that an Einstein quote? It's one of those. I can't remember if it's him but there's that quote, like, one of the ways to master something is teach it. It's like, and number one, it's a way to refine. And then number two, it's just fun. It's fun to help. It's fun to help people. Awesome. That's why we do this podcast,
It's a really supportive community. And when I have been there, the little bit that I have, I can see how supportive everybody is to each other and encouraging and pulling up those who feel insecure or not quite that adept. Nobody judges anybody. Everybody is like, hey, we want to help you succeed. It's a really inspiring energy that's in that room. And I feel that's there because of you, Tim, because you're constantly wanting to be that contribution to them. And I feel like that energy that you come with, it teaches everybody what the tone is going to be from the get-go. And then everybody just kind of falls in line to that. So I've seen you too, Victoria, do that support with people, and it's really amazing. And Steven, he does that all the time as well. He'll do that on his own time, just on Twitter. He'll make sure he's encouraging somebody or helping them, think something through. So this is, to me, the most beautiful thing about, the day traders in Stocks to Trade is the encouragement and inspiration to keep people, going forward. So it's pretty damn beautiful, I think.
You're not going to say it? Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly. There you go. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Jeff, definitely, anything we mentioned today will be posted over at SteadyTrade.com. Check out the Steady Trade Team. Again, Crown has been an amazing contributor there. Steven's there every day. Again, it's an amazing community. It's my life's passion. Crown's heard me tell this story a million times. Friday afternoons are the worst part of the week, and Monday mornings are my favorite part of the day or favorite part of the week. It's like Monday morning can never come soon enough, and would really like to thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Steven, and we'll see you on the next edition of the Steady Trade Podcast.
Bye, guys.